The Chinese side has made clear its solemn position on many occasions. It is part of China's internal affairs and no foreign country has the right to interfere. The Chinese government is firmly determined in safeguarding national security, sovereignty, and development interests, implementing the one country, two systems, and in opposing external forces' interference in Hong Kong affairs. Intimidation will never work on China. The U.S. wants to use the so-called sanctions to obstruct China's legislation process to safeguard national security in Hong Kong. Such attempt stands no chance to succeed. Regarding the wrong moves by the U.S. side, China will take necessary retaliatory measures to resolutely safeguard our national interests. Next question. According to the U.S. Defense Department announcement, the EU side says that China's whole government campaign has expanded from the Indian Pacific to the North Pole, Europe, and Africa, which undermines the post-Second World War international facilities. What's your comment? I think the U.S. is just describing what it is practicing. The relevant remarks are shifting blames and ill-intentioned. The international community has seen it clearly. We urge the U.S. side to abandon the Cold War mindset and zero-sum game conception. It should stop presuming others based on its own pattern, stop groundless accusations and slanders against China. Instead, it should do more to contribute to world peace, stability, and prosperity instead of the other way around. Next question. With Global Times. On June 29, Mike Pompeo issued a statement on Xinjiang saying that, according to German researcher Adrian Zenz, the Chinese government is using sterilization, forced abortion, and coercive family planning against Uyghurs and other minorities in Xinjiang as part of repression campaign. What's your comment? I believe Mr. Pompeo is just talking nonsense. The Chinese government always protects the rights of the minorities as well as other groups equally. We actually take a preferential policy towards those ethnic minorities. From 1978 to 2018, the population of Uyghurs in Xinjiang has grown from 5.55 million to 11.68 million, accounting for 46.8% of the total population in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, 2.1 times of that many years ago. If what Mr. Pompeo said was true, how can we achieve such great increase in the Uyghur population in Xinjiang? Then let's take a look at the U.S., where ethnic minorities have long been under bullying, exclusion, and systemic discrimination that has been widely existing in economic, cultural, social, and other sectors. Just take Indian Americans, for example. The U.S. government has been implementing genocide, racial segregation, and assimilation policies on them. In nearly a century after the country was founded, the U.S. expelled and killed a large number of Indians through the westward movement. At the beginning of the 20th century, the population of Indian Americans nosedived to 250,000 from 5 million in 1492, and today their population only accounts for 2.09% of the total in the U.S. After the COVID-19 outbreak, infection rate of African Americans is more than 5 times of that of the white in the U.S., and their mortality rate is also significantly higher, a clear signal of racial inequality. And more recently, the death of African American George Floyd and the mass demonstrations and protests it triggered again exposed the unresolved systemic racism in the U.S. And the ethnic minorities in the U.S. can't breathe now. It is so pressing. I still want to stress that it is not the first time that the U.S. cited the fake information from German scholar Adrian Zenz. According to the independent news website Grey Zone, this scholar is actually a senior fellow of U.S. government-backed far-right group, the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation, as well as a key member of the Studies on Xinjiang Re-Education Center manipulated by U.S. intelligence agencies. We urge Pompeo and his like to abandon double standards, face up to the U.S. racial discrimination, spend more time and energy on improving its own human rights situation, stop using Xinjiang-related issues to slander China, and stop interfering in China's internal affairs. Next question.路透社提问：很快，在新冠肺炎出现的第一例病例之后，我们即将迎来这个6个月的一个里程碑。中方是如何看待自己的抗疫行动的？在这个过程中的表现如何？在下个月，世卫组织也将向中国派出一个调查组来调查这个新冠肺炎疫情的源头。中方对此有何回应？Regarding to your first question, since the COVID-19 outbreak, the Chinese government has always put people's life and health and safety above all, resolutely taken the most rigorous, strict, and comprehensive prevention measures all the Chinese people have put together, and our efforts made major strategic outcomes. We have detailed the measures and outcomes of China's epidemic response by presenting a timeline and documented this process in fighting COVID-19, China in Action, this white paper. The Chinese government always putting people's life and health first. To protect people's life and health, social and economic activities across the country were halted, decisive isolation measures enforced, WHO's professional recommendations followed, and science-based policy adopted to break the transmission route and save lives at all costs. No effort was spared in this process, and our response can stand the test of time and history. China has timely shared the epidemic information with WHO and relevant countries and regions, as well as the genome sequence of the coronavirus, supporting the global fight against the virus. China appreciates the precious support we received from the international community and also reciprocated such support to provide massive assistance and facilitation in the medical supplies procurement. A lesson we learned from this epidemic is that the virus is a common enemy for mankind. Only by standing together can we prevail. Solidarity and cooperation is the most powerful weapon against coronavirus. The epidemic has told us at the cost of life that we should go beyond the differences in terms of race, history, culture, or even social systems to join hands to build a community with a shared future for mankind and safeguard this only planet. As a responsible country, China will play its own part. As to your second question, China always believes that the tracing of origin of the virus is a scientific issue which should be studied by scientists and medical specialists. Since the COVID-19 broke out, China has remained in communication and cooperation with WHO on the issue of origin tracing. The Chinese scientists have also maintained scientific exchange with their counterparts in other countries. China will continue to support scientists around the globe in conducting scientific studies on the origin and transmission route of the virus. Next question. 伊朗通讯社，我有2个问题。第一个问题是关于伊朗核协议的。联合国安理会最近的一次会议将会讨论相关的伊朗问题和协议的执行问题。你对此有何评论？第二是关于巴以问题。以色列将于7月1日宣布要兼并部分约旦河西岸的备战土地，超过1000名的欧洲议员都对此表示了反对。你对此有何回应？Thank you for your questions. As to your first question, we noted relevant reports. China firmly upholds the authority of UN resolutions, as well as the effectiveness of the JCPOA, which opposes the U.S. pushing the UN Security Council to extend the embargo. All the UN resolutions, including lifting the embargo, should be faithfully implemented. As to the second question, State Councilor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi delivered a speech at a virtual meeting on the UN Security Council's Palestinian issue. He stated China's position once again. Just as he pointed out, unilateral actions will only escalate the conflict and undermine mutual trust. The settlement side issue is among the core ones that concern the negotiation on the ultimate status of the Palestinian issue. The Security Council already drawn clear conclusion that the settlement building is in violation of international law. We should act in accordance with relevant UN resolutions to resolve the occupied territory issue and to delimit the ultimate boundary between Palestine and Israel through peace talks. China calls on all relevant parties to seek to the strategic option of peace talks, cherish the existing outcomes, and refrain from any actions that may escalate the tension. Next question. Fuji TV. The Chinese NPC Standing Committee adopted the Hong Kong-related national security legislation. The Japanese side said they regret that and said this move undermine the international community's confidence and trust on one country, two systems. What's your comment? China already made clear its solemn position on the Japanese side's negative move relating to Hong Kong issues. The Hong Kong affairs are purely China's internal affairs, and there is no place for foreign interference. In order to this improvement of the legal system and its enforcement mechanism for upholding national security in Hong Kong SAR is an embodiment of the one country, two systems, and also a move to ensure the sustained and steady implementation of the one country, two systems, as well as Hong Kong's prosperity and stability. It has been supported by Hong Kong compatriots and most countries in international community. We firmly oppose any forms of foreign interference in Hong Kong affairs. 印度称将采取措施封禁数十款的中国手机应用，中方对此有何评论？ China is strongly concerned about the relevant notice issued by the Indian side. We are checking on and verifying the situation. I want to stress the Chinese government always asks the Chinese businesses to abide by international rules and local laws and regulations in their business cooperation with foreign countries. And the Indian government has a responsibility to uphold the legitimate and legal rights of the international investors, including the Chinese ones. The practical cooperation between China and India is actually mutually beneficial and a win-win. Such a pattern has been artificially undermined. It's not in the interest of the Indian side. 还有一个问题。 你刚才说对蓬佩奥的评论将会有相应的后果，你能具体说一说他将面临怎样的后果吗？是很快就会产生吗？这样的后果？ Are you referring to the Hong Kong-related sanctions? 刚才有记者问到了美方将暂停香港特殊地位的这个声明，我就想问一问这方面的问题。I believe I already made China's position very clear. China is firmly determined in safeguarding its own interests, and we will take necessary countermeasures and reactions to the U.S. move. 法新社。 有研究者最近又找到了中国出现这个猪流感的迹象。Can you repeat your question? 研究者在中国发现了一种新的猪流感病毒毒株，中方会不会担心产生一场新的疫情？ China is closely following the development in this regard. We will take all necessary measures to prevent the spread and outbreak of any virus. If there is no more question, this marks the end for today's press conference.